Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And in today's episode of Is It Grail or Garbage, we're going to rank the Kansept Fenrir, the love child between Sparrow Knife Company and Kansept. Now, you may have remembered I already reviewed this knife. However, I did not rank it. Since then, the knife has blown up. I'm not going to imagine it was because of me. It's because this knife is pretty dang cool. However, I felt like it was high time that we go ahead and give it a rank. But before we do that, I'm going to highlight a comment from the last video, the video where I ranked the Demco 8020.5, this hype beast. Some people like my opinion, some people do not like my opinion, so this could be very interesting. I don't know what comment's going to pop up, and if you like this and you want your comment to be highlighted, go ahead and comment down below on this video, and it very well might end up in the next one. So let's go ahead and see what the community has to say. Today's comment comes from Jonathan Smith. Jonathan said, I never touched one and don't plan to unless I snag one at $80 or so. That's where its price point belongs. I've always found it funny that Cold Steel put out the Demco designed 8015 at the same price with S35VN and G10, albeit I only paid $115 for my 8015. If you like big and chunky knives, it's worth the price. The 8020.5 though, hype trains are overrated. Jonathan, I couldn't agree more. You are echoing my personal opinion. I think that if you like the 8015 and maybe you want a shark lock and you're like,
I can't get an 8020 because they're sold out. They're never in stock.
I hear you. Don't buy this brand new because chances are you'll want to modify it. So you might as well just get it used. Don't spend $150 for this. Spend like 80, maybe 100. Just a thought. Alrighty, guys. So enough of that. It's high time that we go ahead and rank the Kansept Fenrir. And if you like the video, do me a solid. Hit that subscribe button because, guys, I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers so that YouTube will let me use the community tab. As of right now, it's saying no. So we got to get to 500 subscribers. If you like the video, make sure to tap that subscribe button. But before that, let's get into it and see how the Kansept Fenrir stacks up. For those of you that don't know, Roll's Blade Rank is a scoring system in which I use to come up with context so that when I rank or review a blade, you know exactly what I mean when I say it's good, it's great, it's awesome, or it's garbage. So if you don't know how that works, feel free to check the link in the description below. I did do a video on that. You're welcome to pause this, check that out, and come back. I will also contain a link down below for the Roll's Blade Rank archive, where I have listed and ranked other knives as well. And of course, if you disagree with me, great news is that at the end of the year, I will be putting each knife that I reviewed up for a community vote, meaning that if the majority says, "Nuh-uh, you were wrong," y'all have a voice and you can voice it. And if the majority agrees that I need to change the score for one category or another, I will do so. The voice of the people will be heard. So without further ado, this is going to be based off 5 categories. And the first one is materials. Now, the materials on this knife are pretty damn good. We're looking at shredded carbon fiber, or some call it marble carbon fiber, same thing. It's got a titanium clip, titanium bolster, and this is a reverse bolster design, and S35VN steel. So shredded carbon fiber, titanium, S35VN. Now, S35VN is one of my favorite knife steels. It's considered a premium knife steel, not necessarily a super steel, because there are other knives that have better edge retention. Aside from that, that's pretty much the main materials that we're working with. My only disappointment being, of course, that there is no backspacer. I think this knife would have been killer if it had a backspacer, but you can't win them all. In this case, the materials in this knife are excellent. And so for those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and give it a score of 8 out of 10 for the materials. Next up, we have ergonomics. Ergonomics, how does it feel in the hand? Is there any hot spots? Is it well designed? Is there any issue with holding it in any specific form or fashion? The answer to that question is no. It's good in reverse grip. It's good in regular grip. It's good in saber grip, especially with this blade coming into a harpoon style shape. Harpoon is the blade shape that I would say this is, but it's nice because you have this sharpening choil down here, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a finger choil because there's no jimping, but you can definitely put your finger there. It's wide enough for that, and your fingers rest naturally in this pinch grip. So for fine detail work, you have plenty of control, and it just feels natural to go ahead and let your thumb ride up back there to get nice and behind the edge so you can have even force distribution along the blade. You can, of course, do that pinch grip, or you can just do it naturally. The cutout right here for that lock bar relief is, in fact, not lock bar relief, but just to access the lock bar. It is nice, and it does kind of force your finger to go there, but your finger would go there regardless. I don't know anyone that would be like, I need to put my finger here instead. No. So it does guide your finger into the right spot, but the right spot feels nice and tight, and it doesn't feel slippery despite this being marbled carbon fiber and titanium. So ergonomics on this knife are pretty dang decent, and I wouldn't say they're amazing by any stretch. I have held more comfortable knives in my hand. For example, the Spyderco Para 3 is just stupidly comfortable. So this gets a great score, but not an amazing score of 7. 7 out of 10 for ergos. Okay. Now, next up, we have the Fidget Factor. Now, we do all like to play with our knives, at least for the most part. Some people do, some people don't, but most people do. So, Fidget Factor for me is how much do you want to play with this knife? How easy is it to mess around with? How comfortable do you feel messing around with it? And, is it easy? Is it fun? Is it simple? Yes. It is all of those, in fact. Now, it does have a front flipper tab, which it took me a minute to get down, but this is a very aggressive vertical front flipper. And so you can get some nice flips in there. You can, of course, do your roll flips. And of course, it does have a thumb stud as well. It's also not half bad for doing blade drops because the blade does stick out a bit with that harpoon point. However, with that finish being kind of a smooth, satiny type finish, blade drops are not necessarily what I would suggest if you get wild with them, but it's fairly fidgetable. It definitely is fun to play with. It's something that you can flick out and flick in without necessarily feeling like you're trying too hard. And for those reasons, I'm going to give the Kansept Fenrir a respectable 7 out of 10 for Fidget Factor. Next up is the locking mechanism. Now, at first glance, you might say, looks like a liner lock. It's in fact a bolster lock. And here's the difference. A liner lock is a lock that's based on the liner, and the liner is inset in that outside scale. Whereas a bolster lock, something like this, where part of that scale is actually one continuous piece. So the best part about a bolster lock is that you get all the best from both a liner lock and from a frame lock. You get the stability of a frame lock, and you also get the additional benefit of not having to worry about pressing in on those scales too hard. Because with a frame lock, if you hold the scales too hard, it will make it really hard to actuate, which means that you have to hold it in a specific way and then become proficient at making sure that your hand is on the clip, and some clips work for that, some clips don't. With a bolster lock, you just don't have to worry about that. You truly do get the best of both worlds. You get the solid nature of a frame lock, and you also get the ease of fidgeting that you get with a liner lock. So I really love bolster lock type knives. Now, the bolster lock was really well done on here. If we check the lockup, we'll see that lockup is coming in right about, I'd say 40%, and it's very, very solid. You're not going to get this lock to fail unless you're doing some things that you're really not supposed to be doing with it. I really wouldn't suggest pry barring this thing. It's got a very fine tip. So for those reasons, the lock comes in at a great 8 out of 10. And we're on to the final category, fit and finish. How did it come from the factory? Well, it came really good from the factory. I didn't have to worry about loosening that pivot at all. The pivot was perfect. If we check out the centering on the blade, I've never taken this one apart. The centering on the blade is also perfect. Now, the materials, there was no rough spots, no extra edges that shouldn't be there. The finish was good. Even if I necessarily disagree with the finish on the blade itself, I felt like they should have gone with a rougher stone wash, but it was a very, very light stone wash. So that's something I can live with. It was obviously intended to be that way, so I can't say anything negative about that as far as the category score is concerned. Fit and finish on this was great. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10. So if we add up all those scores, materials, we got 8. Ergonomics, we got 7. Fidget is a 7. Lock is an 8. And fit and finish is an 8, which combines for an overall score of 38. 38 puts this in the high recommend category, at least in the scoring. I can highly recommend this knife for a number of different reasons. For one, it was well made. It was designed by somebody that really knows what they're doing with knives, and he makes one hell of a custom knife. Hopefully one day I can get my hands on one. But furthermore, it's fun to play with, it's fun to hold, it's reliable, it's made out of great materials. This is a knife that costs $178. They do have other variations that maybe don't have the shredded carbon fiber. Maybe you get micarta instead, or you can get some with like colored G10, and you can get those for closer to $150. And I'll make sure to link it down below if they're available. If you check out my archive, there will also be links in the archive where you can go to check it out, as well as check out some of the other knives that I've ranked. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're down there tapping the like button, and I will see you on the flip side.